apparently, and for obvious reasons. But our first discussion this morning has to do with the redeployment as already directed by President Bola Tinubu, who we understand is already in China as we speak right now, of the Chief of Defense Staff, of course, Minister of State for Defense, and a couple of other service chiefs to move to Sokoto, not just to cover Sokoto, but the entire northwest belt on account of the ravaging banditry that we've come to find in this part of the country, particularly this part of the northern region. Look at places like Sokoto that one would have thought, I mean, being the state of the caliphate, the last thing you would hear is banditry or kidnapping. Of course, Katsina has been in the news for the wrong reasons in this regard for a while. Kaduna has, I mean, was long there already. I mean, just look at states along that line. It is one bad story after another as far as insecurity is concerned. Many analysts, those who follow security matters, now believe that this announcement, this order by the president, for whatever it's worth, will change the narrative for the better. But then the question is, on what basis are we having that sort of conversation? On what basis are we so convinced that this will be different from other redeployment that we are seeing? Recall that in 2015, precisely on the 29th of May, while delivering his inaugural address, former President Muhammadu Buhari had also said that the Chief of Army Staff would have to move to the theater of war in the northeastern part of the country. Now, the former president himself spent the next 8 years in office fighting insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, and what have you. So are we having the right conversation about these developments? So Chuks, I know, yes, some people may say, well, the northeast and the northwest are basically in the eye of the storm as far as security is concerned when you compare with other parts of the country, unless, of course, you also want to have a conversation about the southeast in particular. This new directive as given by the president, what does it mean for the everyday Nigerian like yourself?
Well, what it means is that it heightens one's fear. Because again, the president has admitted by that singular directive, the president has admitted that Nigeria is at war with itself. Then I'm also worried as a citizen that by the time the military hierarchy, as it were, is moved to Sokoto, that means you're leaving other parts vulnerable. The the Minister of State for Defense, Chief of Defense Staff, and other service chiefs. That's what the directive says. I mean, you're moving the whole of Abuja, the administrative structure of the military, to Sokoto. For me, like I said, I'm worried because if you move the administrative headquarters of Nigerian Armed Forces to Sokoto, and with focus on the northwest, what happens to northeast? What happens to North Central? What happens to the entire South? I might not be a security expert, but for me, you will be leaving those other regions vulnerable. That said, it's unfortunate that oftentimes what we find our leaders doing in this part of the world is that actions that are knee-jerk. We don't seem to act proactively. We don't seem to sit down and have a plan. We are not planning-oriented people. We don't seem to evaluate issues and then make projections as regards what tomorrow holds for us. Otherwise, we shouldn't be where we are at the moment. Like you noted in your introductory remark, President Muhammad Buhari did a similar thing, and then, of course, we all were witnesses to how far that went in addressing insecurity in the Northeast. And now, the same template is being used in this instance. Insecurity pervades the land. It's unfortunate that we are focusing on the northwest today, and it's going to be even more unfortunate that another region might be the focus tomorrow.
I want you to hold this thought for a second. We're taking a quick break now, everyone. This is apparently an expanded discussion we're having on the program this morning. The rest of the discussion will continue after this break. Do stay with us. Oh, thank you for staying with us. So you were saying that if we lay our eggs in one basket, as I like to put it,
oh yeah,
yes, like we're doing with the Northwest right now, we'll leave the rest of the country vulnerable. You want to continue along that line?
Oh yes, because that's what I think, and I don't think it requires a degree in security studies for one to know that. But again, like I said, insecurity pervades the land. I applaud the exploits of our soldiers and security agencies who have been toiling day and night to ensure that the insecurity in the land is curtailed and contained. But it's obvious that our security forces are being overwhelmed. It's very obvious. And this should worry every right-thinking Nigerian. At the moment, the strain on them, the strain on their resources, human and material, is such that any further pressure could actually spell doom for our security architecture. I am worried that we are not paying the right attention to the non-kinetic front of the war against insecurity. Why do I say so? It's on record that Boko Haram insurgents that we have in the northeast, for instance, that we have Nigerians, medical personnel who treat them when they sustain injuries. This medical personnel that treat them when they are Nigerians, why do they have sympathy for the Boko Haram cause? We need to find out. People supply them food items. Who are these Nigerians that supply them food items? Why do they have sympathy for the Boko Haram cause? If you go to Sokoto today, you would find, and other parts of the northwest, people now pay monies to bandits for them to farm on their lands. Before you can have that kind of a thing happen and thrive on a land for such a long, fairly long period of time, of course it means that the people are complicit. Then you begin to ask, why are the people acquiescing, as it were? Because there is this acquiescence on the part of the people. Why are the people shifting allegiance from the government of Nigeria?
That supposedly represents them.
Yes, and moving it to the enemies of the nation. This should humble us. This should make us go sober. And this thing is festering for too long a time, and this thing is actually taking firm root within our body politic. And we are thinking that this war can be won through the barrels of the gun. I doubt it. Because we really need to find out why the people are increasingly moving from the side of the state and then migrating to the side of the bandits.
Is that possible, presumably because poverty has been weaponized?
Yes. If we interrogate this, poverty might be a causal factor, no doubt. Religion might also play a role. It's also possible that ethnicity has a hand in all of this. So the question is, the average Nigerian, does he or she believe in the project called Nigeria? Because if you take a census of these bandits, the people terrorizing us across the length and breadth of this country, I'm sure they are not up to 1% of Nigeria's population. But then there's this acquiescence, I called it, or passive support that they receive from a considerable number of Nigerians that have further that has further emboldened them to consolidate on their vice grip on this country. So that's what we should be querying. Why are Nigerians not fighting this cause? Why are the locals not taking up arms against these their fellow locals? Because they didn't drop from the moon. They function from within this community. You can't tell me that these people are not known by their immediate community. They are very well known. So why are the people not taking up this fight by themselves? Why are the people not co-owning this war against insecurity alongside the armed forces? This should worry us. Because for me, that's why I talked about the non-kinetic front of this war. By the time we probe into this, we would be able to ascertain the depth of whatever that has led to this anomalous situation we found ourselves in. Because we need to dig deep. Guns will not cut it for us. And you will find at times when you find that our soldiers are ambushed, you will find that the intelligence that these people use, also they get it from the people. So how do they do that? It's also possible, well, I'm not there, I use the word possible, advising that they also get intel from members of the armed forces themselves. So if we have fifth columnists who have some sympathy for these bandits within the armed forces, then we are also endangered. Why would we have fifth columnists, assuming they exist, in the military? These are questions that are begging for answers. We need to be sober enough. We need to revisit our fault lines as a people. We need to really come together and find out where this whole thing started. We need to find out where the rain started beating us from, so that we know how to get out of this whole mess. If the president thinks moving the military hierarchy to Sokoto would solve it, for how long shall the government be doing this? Moving the military head. It means if a bomb is detonated somewhere in the southwest, God forbid tomorrow, they will also move there to go and quit. We can't continue like this. Like I said, it's knee-jerk. It's not a directive that is actually thought through. But what do you expect him to do? I wouldn't be surprised if the people in government that they are also in a panic mode.
Because they think this might even escalate further.
Oh yes. Because that's why I am saying that the non-kinetic approach should be optimally explored so as to effectively complement the kinetic. The kinetic is important. But like I said, our armed forces, our security agencies are stressed out because this insecurity thing is not just in the Northwest, it's all over Nigeria.
You know, there are many factors that have been fingered regarding this insecurity in the North generally, regardless of what region of the North it is. We've heard things about how there are non-Nigerians who come through our porous borders, all right? They bring in all the crazy things you can think about, arms and ammunition and what have you, all right? And then we've talked about, for example, illegal mining, how that has become a problem in our contemporary history in this country. Just a few months ago, Dele Alake, the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, had told a bunch of senators that, look, there are powerful Nigerians who are behind illegal mining. As it stands today, with all we know, with all the information in front of us, it is near impossible to divorce illegal mining from the banditry that we've come to find in the northern parts of the country. Why aren't we finding the courage to deal with the fundamentals instead of all this movement of security chiefs?
Thank you so very much. Now, you said something. We have foreigners migrating into this country illegally. Now, that's again returns us to what I just mentioned. When they come in, yes, our borders are porous, and of course they come in with light weapons and all of that. Those borders, the people that live in those border communities, they accept them. They know they are armed. They can see that they are armed. They accept them. They know that these ones would eventually be menace to the society. They accept them. What is it that predisposes that border community resident to accepting a stranger who is armed and, of course, would potentially be dangerous to the society? Why? Why would a Nigerian, properly so-called, be receptive to foreigners who come into our territory armed? This should be interrogated. It simply means that those communities or the people that live in those communities don't give a hoot about your country. Because a patriotic Nigerian would raise alarm. A patriotic Nigerian would send signal to the authorities. A patriotic Nigerian will consider this to be an affront on the nation. There ordinarily should be a pushback, but we are not getting it. If we are not getting that pushback, then it means there is a buy-in. If there is a buy-in, it means our own local population are now conniving with those foreigners to undermine our land. And of course, that's why you now have the illegal mining thing you're talking about thriving. And in all of this, we have people in high places who lend their support to those illegal mining activities, and nothing happens.
Quite a sad tale to tell. As of today, we have heard in the last whatever number of years that Nigeria was going to partnership with the United Kingdom. I mean, the British Army in particular, the British Defense Authorities. At the point, it was the United States coming here, and so on and so forth. Today, the most recent, perhaps, is the back and forth around how that the U.S. might end up putting a base, a military base, that is, on the soil of Nigeria. You already admitted, obviously, a while ago that you are not a security expert. Even if we were able to secure foreign partnership today in the area of defense or military capability, how much of difference would that make given the level of compromise that we have seen in the ranks of our military system in this country?
What you said, that's the more reason our leadership, National Assembly and the executive should sit down and think of how to put our house in order. Our house is not in order. We need to put our house in order. We need to speak with one voice. We are not speaking with one voice to speak. I don't think there is a consensus amongst Nigerians on how best to win the war against insecurity. Because quite a number of people who are supposed to be at the forefront of this war against insecurity, they are actually compromised. They are actually compromised. We had cases of where allegations have been leveled against high-ranking government officials in this country, and for some odd reason, these allegations were never fully interrogated, and we don't know what the outcome. We are never fully interrogated, and we were never told at what point they stopped, because you still see such individuals holding on to those offices and doing very well in government.
It's crazy.
But at the moment, we need to put our house in order first. We need to find out why Nigerians are increasingly getting sympathetic to those who seek to undermine the sovereignty of our country.
Is government aware of this element, or is just pretending not to know?
Well, I imagine that government is aware of this, but I also imagine that due to political factors, due to political considerations, they cannot go all out to name names in terms of those who are compromised, because some of them are still in government, some of them were probably instrumental to the emergence of the government. And when I talk about the government, make no mistakes about it, I'm not talking about just this present government. I mean successive governments. Yes. Because over time you find that they lack the will to actually go all out to root out all of that. Why? Because some of those people played crucial roles in bringing them to power.
All right, so let's use that same power, everyone, to take a quick break on the program. We have one more conversation ahead of us, but we're not just done with these. There's two more questions, very, very pivotal issues we need to address when we return from this short break. Do stay with us. Now, Chuks, at a point, the fight against insurgency in particular became very rife, so intense that ECOWAS had to step in. And we saw how countries like Niger Republic, for example, became very pivotal to that fight, collaboration between Nigeria and Niger Republic. But sadly, now Niger Republic, Burkina Faso, and Mali have broken ranks with the ECOWAS. Security experts, political analysts, and concerned citizens in the sub-region are now saying that this will have far-reaching implications for the fight against insurgency and banditry. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think they are right. And I also think that the government of the day perfectly understands the security implications of these countries leaving ECOWAS. Somehow I'm consoled by the fact that lately Mr. President has been favorably disposed to winning them over back to ECOWAS. Unlike the war songs that rented the air earlier on.
Right.
So for all it's worth, I think it's commendable that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is considering winning them over and ensuring that ECOWAS states present a common front against insecurity in our sub-region, because it will be a lot easier for us to win the war on terror if we come together as a sub-region. Sub-regional, well-coordinated sub-regional effort will yield greater result than having each country do its own isolated thing and all of that, because the way it is that the entire West African sub-region is under attack, and if it's under attack, then there must be synergy among ECOWAS member states to ensure that we win this war. And then talking about ECOWAS member states, we also find that Nigeria is the big brother. Nigeria is the big brother in the ECOWAS family and all of that. So we must provide leadership. For us to provide leadership, again, they say he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. It means we must put our house in order. There must be sincerity of purpose. Then our sister nations would say that indeed that there is renewed commitment on the part of not just the government, but the people of Nigeria to fight and win the war on terror and security.
You know, this becomes interesting knowing that President Bola Tinubu has just been given a second term as chairman of ECOWAS heads of state. But let's stretch the conversation beyond the sub-region and talk about something that is continent-wide, which is the the push, the move that we have seen in the last few decades to integrate Africa, as it were, in terms of trade, free movement of people, and what have you. The presidents of Kenya, Williams Ruto and his counterparts in Rwanda, Paul Kagame, have both been particularly vehement about this call to say, look, if you can have 26, 27 countries in the EU and they are doing great, even though Brexit became controversial at some point, why don't we replicate that model in Africa? Now, when it's all said and done, for a continent that's still dealing with, in some cases, teething security problems, how can we achieve continental integration in the face of all of these troubles?
My people say that a man whose house is on fire does not chase rats. You seek to put out the fire first before you begin to pay attention whether there are rodents in your house. That said, Nigeria has come to a very precarious curve as regards insecurity. I doubt that we can flourish economically without first fixing our security challenges. So we should prioritize our right. And for us to prioritize our right, it means that we have to first secure our land. We need to secure our territory. We need to secure our people before you now talk. You begin to entertain conversations around economy. Economy comes second. Why would we be talking about regional or continental economic integration when our house is on fire? I think that what should bother us as we speak is how to get to the root of this insecurity and then get the people and the government to be on same page on how to go about winning this war and how to collaborate on this particular task. Then when we agree on that, we'll now proceed to engaging our neighbors so that we can now form a stronger alliance that would defeat insecurity within our sub-region. That is what I think. But talking about regional or continental economic integration should come second. It should come second. That you need to secure the land. You need to secure the people.
Right.
When you talk about economy, when you talk about continental economic integration, is it for the dead? The people have to live first. We are sitting on a time bomb in this country, and we need to make sure that that bomb is detonated, so that everybody can be safe and have that sense of safety before you can now proceed with other things.
Let's domesticate the conversation for a few minutes, Chuks. As it stands today in Nigeria, the last few years, we have seen the call for state police, which some person said, well, if you have state police in place, governors will exploit it, governors will abuse it, and blah, blah, blah. Others are saying, well, are the governors not already abusing the federal police that we have as it stands today? And then it was in the middle of that narrative that Amotekun sprang up in the southwest. And we saw Abubuago in the southeast, for example. And others said, well, these two models will probably become some sort of spore for other regions of the country to follow suit. What exactly are your sentiments in this regard?
Well, again, I don't know why everything in Nigeria, including the absurd, the ridiculous, is always put out there for a debate. It's obvious that federal government has become incapable of securing the land. The Nigerian police force does not have enough manpower, does not have enough equipment to police the country. The right thing should be for us to have state police. I don't mind state police. I don't mind local government police. I don't mind ward police. Why? What is governance without protection of life and security? It's stated clearly there in the constitution. That's the primary purpose of governance.
Which lawyers say is not justiciable, by the way.
But all of us, whether it's justiciable or it's not justiciable, all of us need it for us to survive as a state, for us to survive as individuals, for us to survive as a country, as a society, and as a community. You must live first. It's just like saying protection. You see, it's just like saying we all have a right to ensure that we live. We must live first before every other thing, before your constitution. It takes the living to protect your constitution you're talking about. So the primary thing is to secure the land and secure the people. So for me, whatever it will take for us to secure our land, let us do it so that the people can live. It's when we live that we can deal with abuses that they are talking about that would follow suit. Because as we speak now, what greater abuses could one have in places like Sokoto, for instance, that is in the middle, that is in the eye of the storm as we speak? People are dying. People are dying every day in Nigeria. You're telling me about governors being abusive. We want the people to live. We want the society to be retained. We want the society to survive. You're talking about governors. Don't we have abuses all over? Don't they abuse our funds? If they are allowed to abuse our funds, is it to abuse the state police that should not be allowed? Why are we talking too much? Why are we talking too much about issues that have to do with loss of life that you cannot replace? Is it because it's yet to be your turn, it's yet to be my turn, that we are doing this debate? If the dead could see the way they will rise to make justice on us, all of us, will be very, very devastating. We are not being fair at all. Nigerians are dying very preventable deaths in the hands of bandits today. And you're talking about whether we should have state police or not. I said we need state police. We need local government police. We need ward police. Whatever it will take to police our land, we should do it. Let the people live first. Let the land be secure first, before we can deal with the abuses afterwards.
Okay.
After all, governance is a continuum.
Right.
If we find loopholes in our laws, setting up all those state policies, setting up the state police, local government police, and ward police, we can subsequently amend them so as to cure the defects or mischief in those laws.
All right, we're going to take a break now, everyone. The second discussion on the program this morning, it's even more political than the issue around security, and that will come up shortly. Stay with us.
I've seen watch your network, Global Television, and I think it's a refreshing addition to some of the networks that we already have, to have competitive media and looking at news from different angles. The place to go is to watch Global Television, because it gives you a different perspective, whether it is local news or foreign news, and even you're connecting with local communities in villages that I have seen. So we urge Nigerians that, this is the time to broaden the space, the source of information, of entertainment, and of enlightenment. And Global TV is the place to watch.